Advertising. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we're constantly surrounded by it. It's on our shirts, bottles, it's on the highways, it's on our phones. It's practically everywhere. Advertising has intrigued me with its ability to change as fast as the trends and its ability to affect sales. My interest in advertising started with my curiosity in how advertisements are created and how it attracts so many people. This curiosity drove me to participate in ISM. Before I tell you about the work I've done in the past semester, I'm required to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a senior here at Frisco High School, and I'm the last of 6 children. And then I have a best friend named Josie, and she sends me daily scenes from The Office, so she's pretty great. And then aside from my actual family, I spend a lot of time at an inner city children's camp called Kids Across America. As you can see at the picture, it's kind of like the research showcase where you have to act like you're an expert in a subject, but really you're not. So we're kind of like selling sponsorships for kids, and that's pretty much my job. But yeah, that's a big part of my life because I've met so many friends and so many inspiring people, and it's really fun to make an impact on kids' lives. Back to ISM. In the past semester, I've been able to learn about advertising through interviews, research essays, field trips, internships, and doing some of my own work in advertising. For interviews, they've been really helpful to me because I've been able to learn about the environment within an agency, along with current challenges and daily routines of various careers within an agency. My first interview was with Trip Westbrook, who taught me everyday advertising and just like what it takes to be an advertiser. So for him, he was talking about how you have to like a crazy schedule to be able to work in advertising. He also taught me about the different careers within an agency and told me a bit about strategic planning. And when I said it sounded interesting, he told me that I should talk to Emily Thatcher, so I did. And she told me about what a strategic job mainly consists of, and what it consists of is conducting research, analyzing data, and putting it all in a creative brief so that creatives are in touch with what the consumer's needs are and what the client's needs are. My interview with Ms. Thatcher made me really interested in strategic planning, and because it was kind of seemed like a basic mix of psychology and advertising, and since I'm really into psychology, it seemed like a good idea to kind of turn my independent study into strategic planning. So that's kind of what I did. My next interview was with Rose Rawitcher, and she's a group planner at Publicis Hawkeye. And she kind of emphasized the need to keep up with trends whenever working in planning. And because whenever you're working in strategic planning and brand planning, you have to keep looking for the best way to find your target market and keeping up with the trends, because if you don't know what's in or out or what the best platform is for your advertisements, you could practically waste millions of dollars on a failed ad. On the same day, I had an interview with Suzanne Irish at Square One, and she pointed some problems out that she faces in her career. She's an account director, so she has some people that she manages, and also she has to deal with like a ton of clients. And the issue that she has to deal with in her career is balancing managing out people and balancing out dealing with clients. Because if she puts too much attention on one, the other side will not be happy and the whole system will fail. And then later on, I also had an interview with another person from Square One. His name was Greg Guzman, and he works in data analytics. Data analytics primarily focuses on working on clients' websites, making online surveys, and analyzing the data that comes from both the websites and the surveys. He shared with me different ways to conduct research and which ways are the cheapest and most effective. He also informed me about the different clubs and competitive teams that I could join in college in order to gain more experience and make my resume more balanced. After Mr. Guzman, I interviewed Marissa Magrera, and she's a brand planner at the Richards Group. She briefed me over how much of her day, or what her day is spent doing, and it's mostly spent doing different collaborative meetings, and those meetings are super important because she has to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And that's mostly her day, but she also does like a ton of research and surveys and stuff like that. I then had an interview with Crystal Anderson. She's a brand strategist and a co-founder. And she shared with me why she wanted to start her own agency. And it's mainly because she worked in a lot of big agencies like Omnicom or Publicis. And it wasn't fun for her because she didn't have any power in what she could do with her career. And big agencies like those don't really care about their employees that much. And so she started her own agency so that she could take control of her life and do what she wanted to do. And then I had my last interview was with Sarah Allen, who's a brand planner at the Richards Group. And she taught me about what type of leadership is beneficial in advertising. She was recently promoted to a director and had been thinking about past leadership and what had worked for her. And she said that she loved a leader that was open to talk, and gave their honest opinion on her work, encouraged her, but also gave her enough freedom to do whatever she wanted and succeed on her own. Through these interviews, I was able to pick what I wanted to study, brand strategy, and found a mentor, Mrs. Anderson, whom I picked because I felt like we kind of had like the same personality, and I felt like it was going to be a good fit. Having mentor visits has been a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of firsthand experiences that I wouldn't have had, I guess, with any other person I had to interview with. She and two guys just started their agency called Three-Headed Monster, so that's why it's called Three-Headed Monster, because there's 3 people. But they've hired a bit more. They have 5 people in the agency, so it's kind of a small agency, but it's fun because I've got to know everyone really personally. For starters, on my experience, I get to sit on status meetings, and those mainly have to do with active accounts, and so I get to hear like different clients that they're working with, and then also creative briefs, which are what strategic planners have to do all the time. So that was fun to see, like, kind of what my future career would be like. And then also client meetings, and client meetings are kind of fun to sit in on because they have to be so careful about what they say. For example, like they're working on a new water bottle, and it kind of looked like a children's pool toy, but they couldn't like say that to the client, so they had to get a different way of saying it, like, hey, maybe you could change the color or take off the waves on the water bottle. But anyway, just like not being so blunt with the clients and like being respectful, because I mean they're probably pretty prideful of their product. Anyway, I've also got to listen on their current projects, which is my favorite part because I get to see different advertising campaigns before they go on television, and that's definitely like my favorite part. Also, I get to help Crystal with research and with presentations that she presents to clients. But yeah, I think that my mentorship with Crystal has been a very crucial part of my learning experience. Another crucial part of my learning experience is the research essays. The articles that I've read for my career outlook taught me about the different jobs and some basic advertising terms that I now know like what they're talking about whenever I go on my mentor visits. The second essay that I wrote were over 10 things that I learned when working in advertising. So that was really helpful because kind of brought out some common mistakes and how to succeed in advertising. Another one was native advertising, and that one was really eye-opening to see because I had seen native advertising, just never knew there was a name for it. So it's kind of like whenever you go on social media and there's posts, but like you think they're posts and then they turn out to be advertisements. So that's kind of like an example of a native advertisement. And then I also did an essay over strategic planning and kind of brought up like how a campaign is successful and how it is able to reach such a specific target market. And then entrepreneurial advertising, that kind of was really cool because it brought up the trend of like entrepreneuring, and we kind of see that because of the economic slump that happened in the 2000s, and people started trying to make their own companies because they lost their jobs. And we can see this trends in like the shows that we watch, like Shark Tank. But anyway, this movement's just hitting the field of advertising, and the way that it's influenced advertising is that companies are trying to save more money, and their agencies are collaborating with their clients more often. And then this idea also connected to the next article I read, which was over advertising trends, and it's just talking about the new ways that advertisers are getting paid, and it's more moving to an incentive pay rather than just a plain flat rate. So now advertisers have to work to make the most effective ad, and they don't really have a chance to make like a failed ad, I guess. And then also companies are being branded not on their ads anymore, but how they post on social media, and that's how we now view our companies that we buy from now rather than television ads. The same idea connected to the next article I read, which was global advertising trends, and it was talking about the major decline of people watching television and how advertisers have had to change in order to still get their viewers. Anyway, reading the advertisements about trends was really helpful because I could see what problems I might run into whenever I start working in the field. I also learned about advertising through the UNT trip. I took 2 classes that were related to advertising. One was professional selling, and it was talking about selling to different personalities, and that would help me whenever I'm pitching to different clients, making sure that my pitch fits to their personality and their brand and their company. And then my next one, I listened in on a class in marketing, and it is about product life cycles, and just talking about the difference of advertising. So if your company's in a mature stage, your advertisements are going to be based on promoting product loyalty, rather than if you're in the introduction stage, your advertising is going to be based on like information and just letting your consumers know that your product's out there. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about my original work and how it's going to be used into my final product. The quote I picked to guide my work is from one of my favorite movies, The Dead Poets Society, and it goes, "No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world." I picked this quote because I've always wanted to make a difference, and it's inspiring that people think that you can make a difference with just a few words, and that's kind of what I want to do with my final product. I want to inspire women with the advertisements I make for a company, and kind of the company that I wanted to make was personalized office supplies, and kind of inspire them with 2 different pitches that I wanted to make. But before I get there, I'm going to start about what took me to my original work. So for my original work, I wanted to make a creative brief, and to make a creative brief, you have to go do research. So what I did for my research was pick a target market. So I started out picking women right out of college, so that would be 23 to 30-year-olds, and quickly found out that companies buy their office supplies for their workers. So thanks to research, I didn't lose a ton of money on marketing to the wrong audience. And I changed my target market to college-aged women, so that's 18 to 22. And I conducted surveys with my college friends, and they told me about what office supplies they usually buy, and quickly found out that they buy a lot of office supplies, so the market would be very profitable. But also I ran into the problem where my friends told me that they didn't really care what their office supplies looked like. So whenever creating the ads, I'm now going to have to create a need for the product. I also did research on the best ways to connect to this target audience and the best way to incentivize them to buy my product. After I was done with my research, I tried to put everything I learned into a meaningful document, and that was my creative brief. So one of the pitches I did was expressing yourself, and so in this one, I would be encouraging women to express themselves and find their individuality. And the reason why I thought this would work was that college students spend most of their time like trying to find themselves, and 18 to 22-year-olds change the most. So for my target market, I was going to have girls who wanted to find more confidence and be more outspoken, consider herself creatives, and believes in individuality, and a girl who's looking to find herself and express her style. And of course, kind of some problems that I've run into were that like the product would be expensive, office supplies are usually seen as use and throw, and no one really puts that much thought into them. And the reason why people were not going to really pay attention to those negatives were that if I sold the product with this pitch, is that our customers have a way to express themselves, and so that would create a need for the product and get people to buy them, to kind of see it as like an extension of their fashion and see it as a fashion accessory. And then if I did carry out with this pitch, this is kind of what the advertisement would look like. So as you can see, Ray-Ban used for the customized glasses for the colors. It was like never hide. And then Fashion like Universe. And then the YouTube campaign You, and just talking about like different individuality. And then the one I'm going to be focusing on for this video is Converse, and it's called I think it's like Made by You campaign, but talking about making the product yours, and that's kind of what I want to go in the direction for this pitch. Please work. It worked at home. Well, it worked at home. I don't know, like, because I did it on my Mac, and then I took it to the, like, my regular Microsoft, and it worked.
Do you have it on the draft?
I have another, because did you see the last one? You might try the other presentation. It's on the flash drive also. I know. The video is 1 minute 30. Anyway, just pretend that you just saw a video about Converse. Okay. What? Okay, so the next pitch that I was going to do is making life exciting, and the reason why it would work is because office supplies are usually boring, and having them personalized makes them a bit more fun, and you can do whatever you want with the product. So the target market that I would want for this pitch would be a girl who has like is a daydreamer, has a wild spirit, doesn't like to be held down, wants to experience life, and kind of a person that tries to make the most of life and sees the best in everything. And the consumer insight I saw in this is that students are waiting for their lives to start, but if they work to make their lives exciting themselves, they could stop waiting for their external situations to change. And kind of the same convention where it's like expensive, use and throw. And the key idea that was going to change this is that our supplies like make a way to, provide a way to make the school work really fun. And then kind of, if I had an advertisement, there's two different things that I could do with this. One of those things were like, if I had enough money, I could remake an auditorium to make it fun, because I try to look up fun classrooms and fun auditoriums, but it didn't come up unless you're talking about like kindergarten classrooms, which that isn't right, because I think college students should have fun classrooms too. Anyway, the way I could go with this is talking about like, since we're making office supplies fun, we could be like, yeah, we can't really like change your whole entire college experience to make it funner, but like, or more enjoyable. But for right now, we can at least make your office supplies fun. So for my example, that offices have made their employees' lives funner or more enjoyable is Google, who has different cafeterias and slides in their workplace, and then Square One is where I've done a lot of interviews, and they have just like random Hulks and like Spider-Mans all over the place, and their conference room looks like a basketball court. And if you want some time to study alone, they have this thing called the Vault, and it's literally a vault because it's an old Dallas police station. And so you can just like lock yourself in there and get some work done. But also their Portland office has massage chairs, an ice cream cart Thursday, and if I was 21, I'd probably enjoy this, beer on tap. So you can probably say that they're like, their employees enjoy life a lot more, and kind of bringing that into school and making school more fun with customized office supplies. And then, wait, can you click on the video? Thanks. And then another idea that I could go for this pitch is making boring things fun, and this is what Volkswagen did with its Fun Theory campaign. But yeah, you kind of get the point where stairs were like previously boring, and then they made it fun, so nobody took the escalator anymore. And so kind of talked about my final product already, but I'm going to tell you how I'm going to get there in the next semester. So first, I'm going to brainstorm ideas for the campaign, and then I'm going to be producing the advertisement. So there's a couple things that I'm going to be doing, probably a couple print ads, and then maybe a 30-minute commercial if I can get a videotaper. And then I have a friend that I can use for a celebrity influence, a couple native advertisements, and maybe a website prototype if I have time. After I do all that stuff, I need to edit and finalize it so that for my final speech, it'll be ready to show everyone. And yeah.